Marketing channels. The chapter number 12 talks about marketing channels and how these channels they serve as a source of delivering customer value along with products and services. In this chapter, we have certain objectives. First of all, we look into it why firms they use these marketing channels and what functions these channels perform. Along with that, we'll also discuss how these channel members interact with one another and how they organize to perform the work of the channel. Along with that, we'll also identify the major channel alternatives that a firm can go about and how companies they select, motivate, and evaluate their channel members. And we'll also discuss the nature and importance of marketing logistics and integrated supply chain management. Here, what we need to understand that good distribution strategies they can contribute a lot towards firm success. They can serve as a source to create customer value and competitive advantage for the firm. And the firms they cannot bring this value to the customer on their own, just on their own or all alone. They need partners, they need channel members, those who work together with one another, they closely work with one another, and they create a larger value delivery network. And what we need to understand that these supply chains and in value delivery networks, there are two sides. One is known as the upstream partners, everyone who's giving raw materials, component parts, information, finances, or expertise to create a product or to provide a service. They are known as the upstream partners. Once the product has been finished or service has been created, then all the rest of the people or the channel members or the distribution members or the logistic members, they basically are known as the downstream partners, those who from the firm take up the product or a service and provide it to the final consumer. So this includes the marketing channels or distribution channels that look towards the customer, including retailers and the wholesalers. What we need to understand that companies they cannot go alone in creating customer value. So they have to work with the broader network, and individual companies and brand don't compete. The entire value delivery network competes with one another. And the supply chain consists of upstream and downstream. And what we need to understand that the term supply chain may be considered as too limited as make and sell view, which includes the firm's raw materials, productive inputs, and the factory capacity. A better term would be demand chain because it suggests a sense and respond view of the market. And under this view, what happens that the planning it starts with the needs of the target customer. Companies they look into it, what customers they are needing, and then they sense it, and then they respond to that customer needs. So here the goal is of creating customer value by identifying customer needs. And we need to understand yet even a demand chain view of the business may be too limited because it takes a step-by-step linear approach and which is like purchase, production and consumption. So we move ahead it and the most updated or the concept that is being used in these marketing channels is the most large companies they are today engaged in building and managing a complex continuously evolving value delivery network. So now the concept is value delivery network, and uh, there's a concept when we talk about supply chain, usually it has been termed as now as a value chain in which every channel member at their level, at their capacity, try to create value for the customer. A firm, we know that the firm they're always looking for creating values. Even the suppliers as a channel member, because they're the partners of the firm, they also want to create value for the customer by providing high quality raw materials or by giving rebates or trying to look for alternatives methods that can help company to reduce cost, and that cost reduction can be translated to the consumers in terms of low prices. So we need to understand that firms they are these days talks about this value delivery network. We know that Pepsi, it makes a great beverages, but to make and market just one of its classic cola, it's a very complex process, and it's a huge network of people within the company and outside the company. Those who are involved, they coordinate the efforts of thousand suppliers, bottlers, retailers, ranging from Kroger and Walmart to Papa John's Pizza, and advertising agencies and other marketing service firms. The entire network must function together to create customer value and establish the brand's Pepsi Live for Now positioning. So everybody in the chain is creating value and everybody is delivering value to the customer. Their channel members are integrated with one another, and it's not just the success of one member in the channel or the firm, it's basically the success of the entire value delivery network. Value delivery network is composed of companies, suppliers, distributors, and ultimately customers who partner with each other to improve the performance of the entire system. So the major questions that are concerning the marketing channels. Number one, what is the nature of the marketing channels? And why are these channels so important? And how do channel firms interact and organize to do the work of the channel? And what problems do companies face in designing and managing their channels? What role do physical distribution and supply chain management play in interacting and satisfying customers? So once companies they are basically able to answer these questions, they can basically be able to design an effective marketing channels. So when we talk about the marketing channels or the distribution channels, they are the set of interdependent organizations that help make a product or service available for user consumption by the consumer or the business user. We know that we have consumer markets and we have business buyers or business markets. So firms are providing products to both the markets, and definitely they have different channels for providing products to these, either the consumer markets or the business markets. So here what we need to understand that few producers they sell their goods directly to the consumer and finally or to the final user, and there are many firms those who use different marketing intermediaries, like either they have agents which sell the product to other either wholesalers or retailers, or the firm itself directly gives product to the retailer, or it gives it to the wholesaler and then the wholesaler gives it to the retailer. So there could be different methods through which, or there are different channels or the length of the channel through which companies they can provide or distribute their products to the consumers. And we need to understand that the company's channel decisions they directly affect uh, every other marketing decision. For example, how I'm going to set the price, this marketing channel strategy also affects that, because if I'm providing a product on a national discount chain, then the price will be different. If I'm going to keep my product on a specialty store or a specialty product, definitely the price is going to be too high. And if I'm going to sell it directly to the consumer online, then the price will be different. So the choice of marketing channel is going to affect other marketing decisions like pricing. I've said, if I'm going to place a product on a specialty store, then definitely product prestige must be very high. And if I'm going to place it on a discount store, it is going to be kind of just a good deal in fair price. Then we also need to understand that the firm's sales force and communication decisions they depend upon how much persuasion, training, motivation, and supports its channel partner needs. So we need to look into the fact that the decisions that we are taking about our sales force also depends upon the type of channel members that we are dealing with, and whether company develops or requires certain new products. It also may depend on how well those products fit with the capabilities of its channel member. Companies they often pay too little attention to their distribution channel, sometimes with damaging results. So if you are a firm, uh, and you have this distribution channel, you must look into all these factors, and you must pay to the well-being of your partners, to the training of their partner. You must give them support, you must give them training, you must enable them, you must go for capacity building of your partners, so they would be able to deliver value to their customers, to our customers. So this is very important. See, I've seen many firms, those who basically both sides, either it's upstream or downstream, they give a lot of support to their channel members, they train them, they invest in them so they can increase their capacity, storage, and they basically help them to grow as the companies grow itself. So in contrast, many firms, they have used imaginative distribution systems to gain competitive advantage. We have a very good example of this imaginative distribution system. This enterprise rent a car, what they did basically, they revolutionized the entire rental car services by setting up these off airport rental offices. And then we know the retail music was changed by Apple iTunes that they made for this iPod, and via internet people, they used to download these iTunes. And we also know that FedEx has a very creative and imposing distribution system, and that distribution system basically made it the market leader. Along with that, we know that Amazon.com, it's a huge success story, and Amazon became the Walmart of retail on the internet, and they can sell anything and everything without using any physical store. So we have a lot of examples of these distribution channels, these imaginative distribution channels. And these distribution channels, basically decisions, they often involve basically long-term commitment to other firms. And for example, we know that Ford, McDonald, and Nike, they can easily change their advertising, pricing, and promotion. They can also scrap their old products and services, and they can introduce new taste to the market as per market demands. But once when they set up a distribution channel through contracts with franchises, independent dealers, or large retailers, they cannot readily replace these channels with company owned stores or internet if the conditions changes. So this is very important. We need to understand that it is not that easy to change a distribution channel or replace a distribution channel, uh, and the firms, they should consider the fact that these are basically long-term commitment. Therefore, the management, they must design its channel carefully, because you cannot change it instantly. So firms, they must very carefully craft these channels, taking into account the current selling environment and how this marketing environment or the selling environment may evolve over a period of time, or what is the future. So keeping in view both the current and the future scenario, they must design these marketing channels or the distribution channels. And if we look into this these two diagrams, what we see is this is basically will give you a justification why firms, they go for these marketing channels, and how these channel members, they add value. So if you look into the figure A, it's a number of contacts without a distributor. So when manufacturers, they are directly selling their products to the customer, in this scenario there are 9 different contacts. And when the same manufacturers, they use these distributors, the number of contacts has been reduced to 6. The 3 manufacturers, they interact with the distributor, these are the 3 contacts, and the distributor has 3 contacts with customer A, B, and C. So the number of contacts has been reduced. So we need to understand why firms, they basically partner with other firms, why they give some of the selling job to their channel partners, because their system become more efficient. The distribution system, it becomes more efficient, because these distributors, they have their contacts, they have their experience, their specialization, they have a large scale of operations, and these firms, they can be independent firms, and they are basically kind of sharing firm's responsibility in exchange of sharing profits with the firm. So here what we need to understand that in this figure B, this system requires only 6 contacts, and in this way intermediaries reduce the amount of work that must be done by both producers and the consumers. From the economic systems point of view, we need to understand that the role of this marketing intermediaries is basically to transform the assortments of products into assortments wanted by the consumers. The manufacturer, they are making narrow number of assortments, and they're producing these assortments in bulk. And I and you, we never go out and buy these assortments in bulk. For example, if we want to buy soap at a time, how many soaps would we buy? Uh, so we are buying in smaller quantities. And what these basically marketing intermediaries they are doing, they are buying these assortments in truckloads, and they are making them available to us in smaller. They break down these truckload into smaller quantities, and we buy our soaps in smaller quantities. And what we need to understand that these manufacturers, as they're making, one manufacturer is making a narrow assortment. So if we are just going to the directly to that manufacturer and buying from him, probably there are these narrow assortments that are available there. But if we go to a marketing intermediaries, they have different brands on their shelves. They have quite a lot number of assortments, because different, they are buying from different manufacturers, and they are making all those products available on the same shelves. So they are basically transforming this assortments of products into assortments desired by the consumer, because consumers mostly they are variety seeking, and they want to compare different brands, and then they want to choose products among those variety of products those are basically available on the shelves. So consumers, they desire a wide range, a wide variety of products. And for example, Unilever, the Lever 2000 soap, they make millions of these bars, and want to buy in small quantity. Even if a business buyer wants to buy, they will buy in small quantity. But all the retailers are going to buy it in a truckload, and then they are going to break down and make these available on the shelves. And we need to understand that in making products and services available to consumers, channel members they add value by bridging the major time, place, and possession gaps that separates the goods and services from those who use them. So they basically are making systems which are efficient systems. They are coming up with distribution systems which are quite efficient. And we also need to understand that the members of marketing channel perform key functions. They are performing certain functions, and these basically help them to complete the transactions. And if I list down these basically functions, that is like information, promotion, contact, matching, and negotiation. So information is about gathering and distributing information about consumers, producers, and other actors and forces in the marketing environment needed for planning and aiding exchange. So all these marketing channels, they are basically helpful to the company. They're exchanging information with the company is giving them information, they are giving the consumer feedback to the firm, and basically it helps in basically planning and aiding the exchange. They are facilitating one another. And promotion, developing and spreading persuasive communications about an offer. So we know mostly marketing intermediaries, the retailers and the wholesaler, especially the retailers, they go for this in-store advertising or in-store promotions of the product. So all the wholesalers and the retailers, they're basically partners in promoting the product. And then contact, finding and engaging customers and prospective buyers. So company responsibility is very much reduced, because these distributors, they have their own contacts, they are very good, experienced in establishing contacts, and then engaging consumers and the prospective buyers. And then matching, shaping offers to meet the buyer's need, including activities such as manufacturing, grading, assembling, and packaging. So these basically distributors, they basically help in matching what consumers' needs are, and they basically give feedback which helps companies to alter their manufacturing, assembling, packaging, all those things. And then finally the negotiation. So reaching an agreement on price and other terms so that ownership or possession can be transferred from the manufacturer to the consumer. And beside these main functions, these companies, they also form other functions, and these functions are like physical distribution, uh, transporting and sorting goods, then financing, acquiring and using funds to cover the cost of the channel work, and finally risk taking, assuming the risk of carrying out the channel work. Now the question is not whether these functions needed to be performed. All of these are must to be performed, but rather who will perform them. To the extent that the manufacturer performs these functions, its cost goes up and therefore its prices must be higher. So if a manufacturer is performing all these functions by himself, definitely its cost will go up. And so then definitely the prices will be higher as well. So when some of these functions they're being shifted to the marketing intermediaries, the producer's cost and prices may be lower, but the intermediaries must charge more to cover the cost of their work. So it's like a win-win situation for both the parties. So in dividing the work of the channel, the various functions should be assigned to the channel members that can add the most value for the cost. Now we'll be discussing the number of channel levels. A channel level is a layer of intermediaries that perform some work in bridging the product and its ownership closer to the final buyer. And the number of intermediary levels indicate the length of the channel. So if you look at this diagram, it will help you understand this entire concept. But before that, let's define the direct marketing channel. It's a marketing channel that has no intermediary level. So it means that the producer is directly selling product to the customer. Whereas indirect marketing channel, it means that there is an involvement of either one or more marketing intermediaries between the producer and the consumer. So if you look at here, the channel one talks about a direct marketing channel in which the producer is directly selling the product to the consumer, and in the channel two, the producer is selling product to the consumer or making product available to the consumer by the involvement of one marketing intermediary, that is the retailer. So when there is no marketing intermediary involved, that is known as the zero level channel. And when there is one marketing intermediary involved, it means that it is a one level channel. And when there are two marketing intermediaries, and in case of channel 3, it means it's a two level channel. So the length increases with the increase in number of marketing intermediaries in the channel. So for the direct channel, we have an example of Mary Kay. When she started her business, she started selling her products, personal selling. Through personal selling, she used to go door to door and used to sell her products directly to the consumers. Even now, Mary Kay is basically providing these products through home. They have office sales parties and online websites and social media. And in this, basically, this these channels that we are discussing right now are for the consumer markets. So in consumer markets, we go for these kinds of channels, and in this business marketing channels, here basically it shows that the business marketers can use its own sales force to sell directly to business customers, or it can sell to various types of intermediaries which in turn sell to these customers. So here if you look at these diagrams, in channel 1 it is a direct marketing channel in which the manufacturer directly sells to the business customer. In channel 2 there is a involvement of the business distributor. In channel 3 there is the involvement of manufacturers representatives or sales branch or business distributors. Otherwise, mostly we know that in usually business to business marketing, or the channels that they use are usually direct channels. Although customers and business marketing channels with even more levels can sometimes be found, and those are basically less common. So these channel members are connected by several types of flows. There's a physical flow of products from one channel member to another. There's a flow of ownership from ownership of products from manufacturer to the wholesaler, then from wholesaler to the retailer. There's a payment flow, and then there is an information flow and the promotion flow. So these distribution channels, they are more than simple collection of firms tied together by various flows, and they are complex behavioral systems in which people and companies interact to accomplish individual company and channel goals. So because there are many channel members that are involved, so it's a very complex behavioral system. And we need to understand that these some channel systems, they consist of informal interactions, and they have loosely organized forms, whereas some they are very opposite to it. They have formal interactions, they have well organized strong organizational structures. And channel systems, we need to understand, they're not stagnant, they keep on changing. New types of intermediaries emerge, and whole new channel systems evolve. And many a times we have seen that even the number of marketing intermediaries, that has been reduced during these new times of internet age and technology boom. We have seen there is a shift in these channels, the number of intermediaries, and there is an emergence of new types of channels. uh, Channel behavior is basically a marketing channel consists of firms that have partnered for their common good, and each channel member, it depends upon the other. For example, a Ford dealer, it depends upon Ford to design cars that meet customer needs, and in turn Ford depends upon their dealers to engage customers, to persuade them to buy the Ford cars. And even after selling these Ford cars, these dealers, they provide after sales services to the customers. So each Ford dealer also depends upon other dealers to provide good sales and services that will uphold the brand reputation. So in fact, the success of an individual Ford dealers depends upon how well the entire Ford marketing channel or competes with the channel of Toyota, General Motors, Honda, or other auto manufacturers. So each channel member plays a specialized role in the channel. So we need to understand that every channel member is important. They have their own specialized roles that they play. For example, Samsung's role is to produce electronic products that consumer will covet and create demand through national advertising. And same goes for other firms. And we should also understand that channel will be most effective when each member assumes the task it can do best. And ideally, because the success of an individual channel members depend upon the overall channel success, all channel firms should work together smoothly, and they should also understand and accept their roles, coordinate their activities one another. They should cooperate with one another to attain the overall channel goals. However, individual channel members really take such a broad view, and cooperating to achieve overall channel goals sometimes means giving up your own company's individual goals. And although channel members, they depend upon one another, they often act alone in their own short run best interest. So when firms, they go about with such kind of behavior, that they are basically giving priority to their individual goals rather than the collective goals, then there is an emergence of conflict. They often disagree on who should to do what and for what rewards. So such disagreements over goals, roles, and rewards generate channel conflict. And this channel conflict is known as is defined as the disagreements among marketing channels, members on goals, roles, and rewards, who should do what and for what rewards. So here we should understand, for instance, if we take an example of Ford, uh, dealers in Chicago, they might complain that the other dealers in cities steal sales from them by pricing too low or advertising outside their assigned authority. So these kinds of basically conflicts which occur among firms at the same level of channel, these are known as the horizontal conflict. So if there is a conflict among dealers within a Chicago, it means it is known as the horizontal conflict because it is appearing among a same level of the channel. And vertical conflict is basically the conflict between different levels of the same channel is even more common. For example, McDonald's has recently faced growing conflict with its corporations of 3,100 independent franchise. There's a recent survey that has been done, and this survey has basically reflected that there is a problem. There's a conflict between the McDonald and its franchises. And the product problem is basically that McDonald basically makes most of money out of the royalties that it gets from its franchises, and franchises they makes money on the margins. So what's left over after the cost? And what McDonald is doing right now, it is basically increasing aggressively on its discounting, and then it is trying to include a wide assortment of products. Like they emphasize their franchises to introduce customized burgers, McCafe beverages, and all-day breakfast, and all these things require a lot of money. These franchises, they to live up with what McDonald is dictating to them, they basically have to make heavy investments, and then they have to add preparation equipment and staffing costs for franchises, while it slow down the service as well, because it's a very time consuming product. So they have also basically stressed that these franchises, they should renovate the restaurants, they should upgrade them, they should overhaul them. So in this, basically what is happening, that these franchises, they are basically quite dissatisfied.